Caleb Williams had his best game of the season against the Cleveland Browns, and it wasn't just because the Browns are a bad team.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making the Locked On Bears podcast your first listen today, and hopefully every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on the show today, we're going to go back through the Bears' win over the Cleveland Browns after having watched the All-22 film and break down Caleb Williams' performance, where it was clearly his most consistent, most accurate quarterback throwing performance with some really, really impressive throws and the fewest missed incomplete passes we've seen from him all game. We'll also check in on this Bears defense where certainly a lot to like, shutting down Shedeur Sanders, but a couple of concerns that I have moving forward into the Browns game where there's still some vulnerabilities when the Bears go after the blitz here that just make me a little bit concerned about as opponents get better, if there's not a weakness here that opposing offenses are catching on to and really taking advantage of. And we'll also check in on the Bears special teams where the return game and the coverage units have gotten a little bit better, but still some questions about the guys who actually put their foot on the ball in that all-important third phase. But the more I watched and rewatched this Bears game against the Browns, the more it became clear like just how dialed in Caleb Williams was. And this was far and away like the most consistently accurate and in rhythm he had been all season. And I don't attribute all of that to it being a 3-win Cleveland Browns team, because this Browns defense is not horrible by any means. It's not great, but it's not the worst defense in the NFL. It's not super easy for every quarterback to have a great game against Cleveland. And the stat line's not going to show you, oh my God, what an impressive performance from Caleb Williams. He completed 17 of 28 passes. But when you break it down a little bit further than that, you can really see how specifically dialed in he was in one of his most accurate games. Like we've talked regularly this season on this podcast about how pretty much every Caleb Williams performance, there is anywhere from, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 throws in the game where he's just a little bit inaccurate, right? He's a little bit overthrown, a little bit underthrown, a little bit too far in front of a receiver or too far behind a receiver, where it's just not quite the ball placement you wanted to see from Caleb Williams. And it hasn't cost the Bears. I guess it kind of did at the end there against the Green Bay Packers, but it hasn't been so detrimental that takes their team out of the game. It's just he has some inaccuracies. Like every quarterback is going to miss a few throws a game. He maybe misses a few more throws than other quarterbacks, but not a crazy amount of throws, but we want to hold him to a higher standard. This game had the fewest inaccurate missed throws from Caleb Williams of any game we've seen this season. I mentioned he was 17 of 28. And, a lot of those misses were actually a little bit more downfield. He had 2 incomplete passes behind the line of scrimmage, 1 short over the middle of the field, and then a few more, deeper down the sideline and a couple a little bit over the middle. And if you just look at his pass chart in a vacuum, it looks like a pretty normal, regular quarterback performance. You go a layer beneath, just complete or incomplete, and you see an extremely accurate quarterback on Sunday. First of all, officially credited with 4 dropped passes by wide receivers. That eliminates 4 of your 11 incompletions. Those 4 passes were accurate, thrown on target, catchable passes that receivers were unable to hold on to. Caleb Williams threw positive throws on those plays, or at least neutral throws, right? Threw accurate passes on those plays that 4 receivers were not able to catch. Okay, drop passes happen in every game. That leaves 7 other incompletions in this game. And you had 2 of those were thrown away passes where he's flushed out of the pocket or under pressure, or there was one I guess he threw in the dirt, but where he's intentionally not aiming at a receiver, but just getting rid of it to avoid a sack or another negative play and saying, hey, an incompletion for no gain is better than a sack or an interception that could be an even bigger negative for my team. Again, not inaccurate passes, but just intentional decisions to take an incompletion. So that's 2 more. That leaves 5 more incompletions there. One of the other incompletions is when Olamide Zaccheaus fell down. Remember, he slipped on a route and Caleb threw it out and it just kind of landed by nobody. And they showed the replay and Zaccheaus was trying to break to the outside, tripped on the turf, he falls down. Again, we have no way of really knowing whether that ball was going to be accurate or not because the receiver was interrupted on his route in a way that was irrespective of the quarterback's throw on that play. So that's 7 out of the 11 incomplete passes there. If my math is correct. So that leaves 4 incomplete passes then that we can look a little bit closer at. And even within those, you had one pass that was truly a misthrown ball by Caleb Williams, where it was, I believe, his deepest pass attempt of the game. He threw the deep bomb down the left sideline to DJ Moore in the end zone. It was about 45 yards in the air. He underthrew it. And, not to say that the DB had like a clean shot at it, but like DJ Moore had to slow down and come up and it kind of became a jump ball at that point and it falls incomplete. That was really the only one truly like kind of inaccurately or poorly thrown pass in this game. There were 3 others where there's the first play of the first drive of the game when he's flushed out to his right and he throws it to Colston Loveland up the right sideline and it's incomplete as he's kind of going out of bounds and the coverage is right there from the defensive back. It's a really tight window throw that's incomplete because it's good coverage and a kind of a pass breakup by the defensive back at that point. Like it wasn't an inaccurate throw, but it was tight window, tight coverage, but he put the ball in a spot that tried to give his receiver a chance to hold on to it. He could not there. You've got another play where Cole Kmet's working. I don't know if it was a post route or an in route. It was in breaking route, and he's kind of going to the ground while he's covered and isn't able to hold on to it. Like another one where like defensive player is draped all over him, but the ball is accurate. Like it's where the receiver has a shot at it, but the defensive player is also making a nice play on the ball to make sure that the tight end in that case can't hold on to it. And then the other one was when Caleb was being hit as he's thrown to the left, and it kind of wobbles a little bit out of his hands, and the linebacker like tips it before it can get to Olamide Zaccheaus, and it's kind of a batted pass as Caleb is throwing the ball. He's hit, and then it's batted by the underneath coverage that affects the throw. And like so essentially to me, there is one throw in this entire game that was purely inaccurate from Caleb Williams, underthrown deep ball to DJ Moore. There's then 3 other throws where like coverage is really tight, and so you could maybe say he should have thrown it elsewhere, but he gave his receiver a shot at any of those 3 plays, and it wasn't an inaccurate throw. It just wasn't like only where his receiver could catch it. So you could nitpick those if you want to, but everything else was dropped, thrown away, or a receiver falling down. Like that is accurate on more than 80% of his throws. I guess I didn't do the math on if you take away 4 drops, 2 throwaways, 1 fall down, and then those 3 other plays, you could call them coin flips. But even if those 4 are the only incompletions, that if you want to count all 4 of those against Caleb Williams in this game, the math would make that an 81% completion percentage in this game. And if you give him back 3 of those 4, that puts you over 90% accuracy on throws from Caleb Williams in this game. Like that is special, elite, next level accuracy. And it's like, well, okay, it was against the 3-win Cleveland Browns defense. Like how special is that really? But I'm not fully convinced that this is all a story about, oh, well, that was just a bad defense that Caleb was carving up there, because like we have seen him miss open receivers on inaccurate throws, right? It's not like, oh, against better defenses, he's just not seeing or finding open receivers, and that's why he has more incomplete passes. But it's like we've seen him miss, I don't want to say layups, but like easier throws even against the Packers, the Eagles, the Steelers, like better defensive teams where it's just a quick out route to Luther Burden. He overthrows because he doesn't step into it properly, or he's got DJ Moore breaking over the middle and he's open, but he just puts too much on it and he throws it too high. There's a bunch of those instances where the quality of the defense or the quality of the coverage isn't really making the throw that much more difficult, but Caleb just misses it. And that feels like it's almost entirely on the quarterback, and he individually being a lot more accurate in this game feels like real progress from him. Not that he's never going to miss a pass again, and certainly this was above what we should expect from him week to week, and some of that probably deserves something to be said about the opposing defense and Ben Johnson running a bunch of play action in this game, but it wasn't like it was a lot of layups. They only ran 4 screens. There were lots of deeper out routes, post routes, crossing routes, and obviously a good running game. That was all, part of this equation, but I think it's something you can be really encouraged about Caleb getting into rhythm and staying dialed in throughout this game. Defensively, I came away still feeling really good about how the Bears defense played, but it left something for me to wonder about going into the Green Bay Packers game when it comes to how this defense blitzes opposing quarterbacks. That Dennis Allen needs to make sure he's not falling into some of the same mistakes over and over again. So we'll take a look at this defensive performance. And at some point, we need to talk about Caleb's second touchdown pass to DJ Moore next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move really fast. One big play and suddenly everything just feels different. And that's what makes betting with FanDuel so exciting, because you're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And that live betting is really the best when the game starts to shift. A quarterback gets hot, a defense tightens up, or that momentum flips after a big turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump right into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, or player props that update as guys heat up. So, for example, the Bears are home underdogs this week against the Green Bay Packers, but as that game goes on, that line's going to move, and you can jump in at any time on FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. This Bears defense in back-to-back weeks has given up big plays on the back end of blitzes, and it absolutely didn't make a difference against the Cleveland Browns, but it did make a difference against the Green Bay Packers. And when it happens 2 games in a row, the second game being against a much worse team, that's when it catches my attention here. And so I don't want to take away from the fact that they held Cleveland to 3 points. They dominated defensively. We talked about it on yesterday's podcast. This was a very good all-around defensive performance. This is the fewest points the Cleveland Browns have scored in a game this season. And we know they're a bad team, but no defense has held them to 3 points. The 49ers held them to 8. The Steelers held them to 9. Every other defense has allowed double digits, and no one has kept them from more than one scoring drive in a game. Or I guess maybe the 49ers game was a 2-point conversion, but nonetheless, 3 points is the minimum of any team. The Bears defense very obviously did a great job against Cleveland. I don't want to take away from that. And going back to the All-22, for example, in the positive direction, Austin Booker had a really, really strong game. There's definitely something there. We talked about how bad this Browns offensive line was and how that definitely was a big factor in the Bears pass rush being so successful. They had Shedeur Sanders under pressure on 50% of his dropbacks in this game. And so, I don't want that to mean that, no, Austin Booker turned some corner and is now going to be a dominant pass rusher for the final 3 games of the season. But it's also, it says something when a player dominates a backup. He was mostly going against the backup right tackle, took his lunch. Couple of sacks, couple of quarterback hits, handful of hurries in there. He was consistently generating pressure on the quarterback. And it checks a box. If you're going to be a good defensive end in the NFL, you need to dominate backups. Sure, there are plenty of defensive ends in the NFL that do dominate backups. But if Booker wasn't dominating a backup, it would be a concern that he's not developing and not progressing and getting bigger, faster, stronger to become a bigger playmaker in this defense. So the fact that he was able to be particularly good, not just he had a better game, but he played really, really well as a pass rusher, is a good sign, even though it's against a backup. Doesn't mean it's going to translate and be dominant against starters, but you got to be really good against the backups before we can trust that you're going to be really good against the starters. And he was really good against the backups. But if we go a little bit deeper in here, there's two plays in particular I want to focus in on. Both of the deep bombs that Shedeur Sanders threw to wide receiver Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond is not a household name at receiver. He was an undrafted free agent this year as a rookie out of Texas, known to be a really, really fast player. But the point being, like, this is not a receiver that is lighting the NFL on fire and dominating everybody all season. I mean, he's got, 16 catches for 288 yards on the season. He's a vertical threat, but, like, I'm trying to not tear him down with also not building him up to be too much. Like, it means something that, like, he got 2 big catches against his defense without being anybody special, but also not being nobody either. And both of those big catches from Isaiah Bond came on blitzes from Dennis Allen's defense. And it gives me some pause and concern about the rematch with the Green Bay Packers, because when they played Jordan Love the first time, he burned them a handful of times on blitzes. Bunch of those deep passes, and I think at least two of the touchdowns for sure, maybe 3, but at least 2 of the touchdowns were against blitzes. The slant route to Christian Watson when he burned C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and one of the deep balls downfield. I don't know if it was the Watson one or the Bo Melton one. I think it was the Watson one. I think the Melton one was not a blitz, but the other Watson one also against a blitz. Jordan Love was really good at blitzes coming and finding a way to not only get rid of the ball, but hit a receiver downfield vertically where you're missing defensive backs, and then you can't catch up and tackle that speedy receiver. And you can say, okay, well, Jordan Love's really good against the blitz, so that's just going to happen sometimes. Fair enough. But then it happens twice against Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns, and all of a sudden I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Maybe they got to change something up here, because it's not specifically purely that, oh no, when they blitz, they're vulnerable on the back end, but like specifically, they've been man coverage blitzes behind the back end. Like, and that feels like a recurring theme that's becoming a challenge here. So like I forget which order they came in. I believe the second one was the time when Jalen Johnson got burned deep, one-on-one, where Bond is taking like I don't know if it was a post route, a skinny post route, or if it's a true like 9 route up the middle, up the seam. I call it probably more like a skinny post route at that point. And it's just one-on-one man coverage. The Bears are in a cover 0 blitz. They're rushing 6, and everybody behind him is 5 guys, one-on-one man-to-man coverage, and this faster receiver runs by Jalen Johnson, and he completes it deep over the middle, kind of like right at the right hash marks, and it went about almost 35 yards in the air. And on that play, I think it was TJ Edwards. It might have been both the linebackers blitzed, and I don't remember. One of the 2 linebackers comes free unblocked because there's 6 pass rushers and 5 blockers, so I'm pretty sure it was Edwards, but I'm not 100% positive. Loops around by like the right guard or on the right side of the center, and is coming down the barrel in Shedeur Sanders' face, and Sanders makes an incredibly impressive throw to get that ball to Isaiah Bond. But still, it was an impressive throw that Jordan Love made, and now an impressive throw that Shedeur Sanders made, and I worry that if Dennis Allen is going to it in back-to-back weeks and getting burned by it, like, are you going to stop at some point when it doesn't work the first time against Love, and then you try it again against a much lesser offense and it still doesn't work, and you go, there was another deep bomb to Isaiah Bond on a blitz. This time he was running more of like a vertical seam from the left side of the slot. TJ Edwards is running from the A gap on the line of scrimmage. They're showing blitz. Edwards backs out of it, but then C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Jaquan Brisker blitz off the right side, but Edwards is in the middle at the A gap. He turns out to run up the seam with Isaiah Bond, which not a great matchup there, right? I mean, when you blitz, you're gambling a little bit here, but on this play, Kevin Byard is a deep safety there to help. Like, they're blitzing and it's not pure man, it's man coverage with safety help, but Edwards is too slow to cover a 4-3 wide receiver up the seam, and then Byard is kind of playing like half of the field deep, and so he's late to come over and help on Isaiah Bond. And on like 2 different plays in this game, the 2 deepest completions from Shedeur Sanders, the only 2 explosive offensive plays, at least in the passing game, were both on blitzes with man coverage where the Bears just didn't have the horses to run with a faster receiver. And I'm again left wondering, like, okay, when you're burned on it by the Packers, you could say, hey, that's a good team. They're going to burn you sometimes. But when Shedeur Sanders gets you not once, but twice in those situations, like, you can't go into Green Bay the second time, go face Green Bay the second time in Chicago and blitz with just purely man coverage behind it. You don't have the players to cover man coverage behind it, at least on the speedy wide receivers. And I guess good news for Bears fans, troublesome for Packers, that Watson suffered that chest injury last week against the Broncos, went to the hospital. Certainly don't wish that upon him, but like Matt LaFleur sounded not overly worried about it. So there's a chance Watson could still play, but if he doesn't, that does make it the life easier for the Bears to cover a little bit. But still, like against the Packers, it was a lot of blitzing with man coverage. Against the Browns, a lot of blitzing with man coverage. Can you throw some zone in there so the quarterback can't just see that it's man and float it out in front and trust that his speedy receiver is going to go get under it? Like, you know, I'll give you the one time against Green Bay, but then you do it again and it doesn't work again. And it's like, I mean, it worked in the big picture of they shut down Sanders, but like you got burned on it again. That's the better way to say it. You got burned on it against Green Bay. You got burned on it against Cleveland. So then, you know, fool me 3 times against the Packers, and I guess it would be the second time against the Packers, but 3 games in a row. I feel like you can't just keep going back to that. If you've seen your own defense get burned on it in back-to-back weeks, one against a good team, one against a not-so-good team. So that's a little bit of the concern there for me. I also have a little bit of bigger picture concern about the special teams in the sense of like the kicker and the punter, but also like it's kind of good news, bad news. Good news, or I guess bad news, missed a field goal and your punter wasn't great. Good news, return game is better and your kickoff and punt coverage is better too. So we'll check on this Bears special teams, and we still got to talk about that second DJ Moore touchdown from Caleb Williams. That is a ridiculous throw in just about every sense of the word. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Rocket Money. Do you ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. In a few subscriptions here, online shopping there, and suddenly the number in your bank account doesn't quite match the number you thought in your head. And that's where Rocket Money helps you clarify, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds those subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly, and you can see all your spending on one dashboard to make it easier to understand where exactly your money is going. Is it a lot on dining and entertainment? Is it bills that are costing you more than you thought they would, or some other expenses you weren't accounting for? They've got bill alerts and spending notifications that help you catch small things before they turn into big expenses. So take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. I worry that at some point, Cairo Santos' missed field goals will come to bite the Bears in the playoffs. And I worry that Torrey Taylor's mediocre at best punting will not cost the Bears a win and a loss, but when the margin of error gets smaller against teams that aren't the Cleveland Browns, and, you know, especially in the playoffs, like, if that won't help make a difference. But yet I'm also encouraged by some better returns in recent weeks by Devin Duvernay and Josh Blackwell, and certainly some better coverage on kickoffs and punts that leave me still trying to figure out this Bears special teams. Like, I can't help but feel some parallels to 2018, right? First year of an offensive head coach, defense is dominating with turnovers. You're in position to win the NFC North. Things are going well. And I'm not going to make Cairo Santos Cody Parkey, because even Cody Parkey was missing more kicks than this. But like, it's just a reminder that when you get into the playoffs, you might need your kicker to hit a crucial field goal down the stretch. And I just want to make sure we're asking ourselves, like, if you're down 3 or 2 or even 1 late in a game, how confident are we really in Cairo Santos? He's hitting 80.8% of his field goals this season. And the whole thing with him was like he used to be automatic from under 50 yards. We knew the length, the range was not super consistent, but like, anything shorter and close to the line of scrimmage, like or closer to the end zone, he could hit. But this season, he is now, 8 for 9 in the 30 to 30. Like he's missed 1 from under 40 yards and 2 from, under 50 yards, or I guess 2 more. So 3 total from under 50 yards. But then, so in the 40 to 49 yard range, he's missed 2. In the 30 to 39 yard range, he missed 1, which was this past week. And then plus he's missed a couple, even deeper kicks this season. And it's just like enough of a doubt where it's certainly too late in the year for the Bears to do anything. Jake Moody's long gone. You're not going to find a better kicker on the street at this stage of the process. So you're stuck with Cairo Santos. But like, man, when he missed this game, like at home, at Soldier Field on a chip shot, like part of the whole reason you've stuck with Cairo Santos is like, well, he doesn't have a strong leg, but he's super accurate. And maybe most importantly, he knows how to kick at Soldier Field, right? He knows how to account for the wind at Soldier Field. And yet in this game, he misses from 35 yards, I believe, or was it? I think that's the number I'm seeing. Or no, I guess it's a 41-yard kick, but spotted at the ball's held at the 35-yard line, hits the right upright. Like that's what he's supposed to be here to hit. And if he can't hit those, then what is he doing here? And the answer, what he's doing here is that they don't have a way to replace him. So that's what he's actually doing here. But like in the future, like there's going to be it was a 35-yard field goal. I looked it up. 35-yard field goal, no good. Like 35-yarders should be automatic for Cairo Santos. That's the whole reason he's here. And if those are no longer automatic, then what is he here for? And I don't think they certainly have to make some kind of kicker competition or change this offseason because this is currently not good enough. And I'm worried that they're playing a close game in the playoffs against the Rams, the Packers, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, whoever wins. The Panthers may end up winning that division. Whoever the team is, the Eagles. If it comes down to a field goal, I'm going to be nervous about that. I'm also going to be nervous about playing the field position game with Torrey Taylor, where you use a 4th-round pick on the punter, and he's supposed to be the booming leg that can flip the field when you're backed up in your own end zone. And yet in this game, you're backed up in your own end zone. And I believe it ended up rolling a little bit more, but like he still had a way too short punt that didn't get this team nearly the field position flip it needed to in this game. And that concerns me when you have to be able to pin an opposing team back and make them drive the length of the field. And to his credit, he had a couple of, certainly the first punt that's down inside the 1 by Josh Blackwell diving for it and stuff. Like he has been better at the coffin corner stuff this season, and I will give him credit for that and being able to pin a couple of these inside the 20. But like he has not been everything the Bears need him to be this season. And I worry about like when you really need that key field flipping moment, can you get that punt from your punter? And is that going to be the difference between winning and losing? Maybe not. I don't know how many times a punter has been the difference between winning and losing, but it's like, it's these little things on special teams that you keep worrying about. Like we were worried earlier this season that the Bears kept giving up big returns to opposing teams. So they were getting great field position, and that's been better in recent weeks. And they certainly kept the Browns from having big returns. And on the flip side, like Devin Duvernay had some nice returns in this game. We've seen Josh Blackwell have a couple nice returns. Like they're making progress in those areas that help you feel a little bit more comfortable with Bears special teams as a whole. But the kickers and punters, the guys who actually touch the ball themselves, like with their foot, I just want to keep a closer eye on these final 3 weeks to see what kind of confidence we can have in them going into the postseason. It's weird to be talking about the postseason as such a fairly sure thing at this point, but that's where we are right now. And just in our last minute here, quickly, the second touchdown to DJ Moore from Caleb Williams. Like it didn't quite flow into the conversation properly earlier. We had to keep it moving, but like that ball that Caleb Williams threw in the back of the end zone that DJ Moore came down with. Ridiculous physical throw for Caleb. He was off his back foot, rolling to the right, like falling backwards towards the sideline. To put the kind of velocity he put that on in the back of the end zone is truly special. That very few other quarterbacks in the NFL can make that throw. It might be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Caleb Williams. There's probably another quarterback in there that I'm not thinking of, but like it's those kind of guys right now. ridiculous that he was able to put the ball where he put that ball. However, I've watched it through a number of times there. That's a 50-50 ball. I don't want to say he's lucky that it wasn't intercepted, but the defensive back that was covering DJ Moore took a bad jump on that ball. Like, he put that in a spot that is really hard to put the ball into, but if that pass is intercepted, I'm not surprised at all. That doesn't necessarily make it a bad decision. It's a jump ball. It's a 50-50 ball for DJ Moore and the DB. DB took a bad jump at it and made it a 75-25 ball, but a better cornerback probably picks that pass off. A better safety probably picks that pass off. And Caleb says, I can make any throw. That wasn't an ill-advised throw. I can make that throw. He absolutely can make that throw, but it's a completion mostly because the DB took a bad jump at it. Like, it wasn't like DJ Moore wrestled it away from him. There was a little bit of that, but like, again, I'm not here to like, again, it was the Caleb Williams' best game of the season. That's why I started it that way. But like, let's not pretend like that was some ball that only DJ Moore could catch. A better cornerback at least breaks up the pass, and an elite cornerback intercepts that pass. But let's be happy and celebrate that it was a touchdown, because it was a really, really impressive play to watch, and one you're not going to see anywhere else in the NFL this season and may not ever see again from a quarterback like Caleb Williams. But hey, we're moving on from the Browns win, dominant all around. It's Packers week, it's revenge week, and we got a lot to break down here in the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today, and making our first listen every day. You can be part of the Everydayers Club, and you can even get Locked On Bears ad-free if you join the Everydayers Club for $5 a month at lockedonbears.supercast.com, or you can just keep tuning in your regular podcast or YouTube platform feed. Coming back tomorrow, make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.